Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedbuilding video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Glimmerbrook, which is the world that we got with the Realm of Magic game pack, and we've had Realm of Magic for about a year now or something, and I haven't actually done too many builds in this world, but I really want you to sit down and build something for the Charm family. Now in the world of Glimmerbrook there is only 2 households. I can't remember the other name of the household, but it consists of 2 Sims, and then there is the Charm family. And one thing that really stands out to me is their household description, because their household description states that they are the oldest family in Glimmerbrook, which, if we're being honest, it's not that hard since there's only 2 households in the whole entire world. But it states that they've got a really strong bloodline and they produce generations of spellcasters, and I really wanted to build something and create something that kind of looks like it's a family estate. It's been passed down through all these generations, all these so-called generations that don't seem to currently exist in the family tree. But if you've been watching my channel for a little while and you're familiar with my videos, then you'll know that with my save file I'm going to be making every family so they actually have generations, they have family trees. And one of the things that makes me want to do it more is, in previous Sims games, one of my favourite things to do was literally just go into the family tree and just have a little browse of who's related to who, and it was just one of my favourite things to do, and I'm definitely going to be doing that for this family. I want to create generations and generations and generations of spellcasters. They're probably all going to be dead, but I just still want them to be in the family tree, and eventually I will be creating a graveyard in my save file, and your Sims will be able to go there and visit their previous generations. It's something that I just really want to do, and one of the most exciting parts of my save file for me personally. But anyway, I feel like I went a little bit off subject there, but yeah, I just really want you to sit down and build a family estate that looks like it could have been passed down through the generations of spellcasters, and it kind of matches their household description. So this is built on their original lot. I can't remember the lot size, but I'm pretty sure it's actually the biggest lot in Glimmerbrook, and I wanted it to be grand, I wanted it to look old, so I went with a lot of Tudor looking wallpaper. And yeah, it's quite a big house. It doesn't have that much of a garden. Now when I was actually coming to the garden, which I will move on to in a little while, as you can see, the first few minutes of this video is me doing the roofing. The roofing of this build alone, just the roofing, took me an hour. It was so frustrating, I couldn't figure it out, and it was because I was working on a diagonal. Now I actually mentioned it in my last video. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll put a card on the screen now so you can go and watch it. But I actually mentioned in that video that building on diagonals is quite annoying, and that was because I had just finished building this house, and building on diagonals in The Sims is just it's just not great. It just doesn't work that well. And so it took me so long to do the roofing, because the roofing has different types of roofs for diagonals, and it just took me a while. As you can see, this little area over here, I decided to, do you know what, I'm not going to actually put any roof there. I'm just going to make it so it's kind of like a flat roof, and then put some fencing. The fencing that I've currently put, I do actually change. I change it to a little small half wall in a while, but I was just fiddling around with that little corner for such a long time. I just kind of wanted to move on from it because it was giving me a bit of a headache. It took me so long just to do the roofing, as I said. But in total, I think this build took me around about 11 hours, something like that. I had about 10.5 hours worth of footage, but I didn't record absolutely everything because I didn't want my computer to just have a meltdown when I put all the footage into my editing program. So I know that I only recorded 1 bathroom. I didn't record the wallpaper and the flooring, and I'm pretty sure I actually didn't record the floor plan either. But at the end I'll actually have overhead screenshots so you guys can see how I did the floor plan. If I remember, the floor plan was quite a fiddly one as well because of the shape of the house. It's just quite awkward. Working on diagonals, it's just not the one for me. I just don't enjoy it that much, but I really do enjoy this house, so it kind of pays off, and I'm so happy and just pleased with the way it turned out. Now as you guys can see with the roofs, there is actually quite a lot of detail into the curves of the roof and the way that the kind of roof just kind of flares out a little bit. Now I just want to mention this because I was actually on Twitter the other day and I saw someone say that they've just discovered that this was a thing in the game, and I personally have been using it in the game for a little while, but then again sometimes I discover things in the game which I wasn't familiar with and I didn't even know was a thing. And so to actually get the way that the roofs are, I actually pressed Shift C. Now, normally when you're playing around with roofs, you can kind of make it go in really pinched in or make it go really out like a circular roof. If you press Shift C, you kind of get so many more options, and you can kind of mold the roof in basically any way that you want. And I just used it a lot in this house, and as I saw someone post that they didn't actually know it was a thing in the game, I just thought it would be maybe helpful to a few of you. Maybe some of you didn't know that it was a thing in the game. Personally, I actually found out about this maybe about a year and a half ago, but there is for a good while I didn't actually know it was a thing in the game. But yeah, if you press Shift C, you can get more options for roofing in the game, and it's just a lot easier to get a more curved roof. And I felt like for this house, as it was kind of like witchy and magical, I wanted there to be a lot of curved roofs, because that's kind of like a thing with magical builds and magical houses that you see. I mean, I've never actually seen a magical house, but if I go onto Pinterest and I see a witch's cottage or something, they do normally have a lot of curves and a lot of structure to the roofs. And yeah, I just thought I'd mention that's actually how I did it. But as you can see, I'm just going in and I'm just adding a little fireplace area. Now there is actually, I believe, 2 or maybe 3 fireplaces in this house. There's quite a lot, and I'm pretty sure all of them are actually the one that we got with the Realm of Magic pack. It's got like a load of crystals and gems and all that kind of stuff at the bottom of it. And now I'm just going in and doing the wallpapering and flooring. Like I mentioned, I wanted this house to be really old, look like it's been passed down through the generations, maybe from the Tudor era. So why not add the Tudor style wallpaper that we actually got with, I was about to say we got with Windenburg, but no, we got with Get Together. And as you can see, something I'm actually doing over here is I really wanted circular windows, but they didn't have the circular windows in the build and buy catalogue that I was actually looking for. And so what I actually did is I actually took some windows that we got with Strangerville, which kind of point at the top. And then in the base game, we have this like a wall object that's like a circular shape. I'm not sure what kind of shape it is. It's like circular at the top, if that makes any sense. And basically I just merged them together, trying to create the kind of window that I want, and it actually worked out perfectly. The swatches actually match the original base game wood as well, so it just kind of looks like it's one window, but it's actually, well, it is one window just with an object on top of it, so you don't get that pointy top, because I didn't really want the pointy top. I wanted it to be quite circular and match the other windows in this build. As you can see, I did use a lot of the Get Together window, a lot of Get Togethers in this pack, to be honest with you. I used the Get Together kind of Tudor looking windows at the front of the house, as you can see on the right hand side, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the windows as well are actually from Get Together. So I would highly recommend having it Get Together if you want to download this house via the gallery. Now, something you might be wondering right now is how I'm able to put out all of these trees from the build and buy catalogue without actually having to search debug and they be in my normal kind of build and buy menu. Now, there is actually a mod by Twisted Mexi which allows you to have all of the debug menu items that you normally get from the debug cheat and all of the live edit objects that you get from the world cheat in your normal build and buy catalogue, because normally if you activate the cheats then you have to search debug and it's a massive mess and it takes you forever to try and find anything and you can't duplicate stuff, and if you want one thing you have to search for it using debug and it's just named debug. Now this modder, amazing modder, has able to basically let you just have all of the debug menu items, all the live edit items in the build and buy catalogue, but you don't have to search debug. They're actually named, they're perfectly placed in their respective categories. So all the debug or all the live edit rocks will be in the rock category, all the plants and the trees, etc, etc, they're all in their own categories, and it is a lifesaver, absolute lifesaver. And so that's how I was able just to put them all out of my catalogue. I'll have a link to that modder's Patreon in my description box down below, as well as the link to the actual mod itself. It is so useful and I just cannot thank them enough for just doing it, because going through the live edit menu and just searching debug is a massive headache. And say if I place a tree in a corner and I later came back and I was like, oh, I want that tree again, but then I'm going to have to search through debug. You don't have to do that because you can just duplicate it, which is also a massive bonus of this mod. It is just absolutely amazing and I cannot preach this mod enough. It does actually class your game as custom content if you have the mod still installed when you actually save the house, but as soon as you remove the mod from your mods folder, it saves as a normal, because none of it is actually custom content. It's just acting like custom content because it's been named and placed into folders, I believe anyway. But don't worry, if you are a builder like me and you want to put houses on the gallery and you don't want them to be classed as custom content, as long as you take it out of your game beforehand, it won't be classed as custom content. It's a lifesaver, highly recommend. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I have finally moved on to the inside of this house. As you see, I would have just gone in and just done the garden very briefly. Now, I think I actually started speaking about the garden but then went off subject, but the garden was kind of like an awkward one because it was quite a small shape. But then again, with spellcasters, I don't imagine them to have a lot of garden parties and stuff like that. I imagine they spend all their time learning spells and potions and stuff. And so out there is just a little swing set, there is some seating area, and there is also just some like gardening stuff as well. I kind of imagined the mother in this house to actually do a lot of gardening. Now, I can't remember her name off the life of me, but I just imagine that she does a lot of gardening in her spare time when she's not trying to teach her children just spells and potions and stuff. But as you can see, I'm now actually doing the kitchen. Now with the kitchen, as you would have seen, I did actually just kind of whip past me actually picking out all of the different items that I wanted to use in this kitchen. This house, if you like clutter and you like detail, I feel like you might be a bit happy with this because I spent so long cluttering up every single area of this kitchen that I could possible. I spent so long going through the menu and picking out all these different items that I want to include, and it is just such a cluttered kitchen, but I absolutely love it. I feel like it makes sense for this family in a way, especially for the mum. I imagine her to have a lot of items. She does a lot of cooking and she does a lot of potion making, and even though you don't actually make potions in the kitchen, but I just imagine that she would have a lot of stuff in her kitchen and it to be very cluttered. Definitely not a minimal household to say the least. But as you can see, some of these items are from the regular build and buy menu, some of them are debug, some of them are live edit. I also did actually place these Nifty knitting kind of like wall plants, not wall plants, ceiling plants, like hanging off the ceiling plants in the middle of the kitchen just above the island, kind of like a plant chandelier. I really liked the idea, and so I used various different heights of them and different colours to try and create it. And I am just going around and just finishing up all the clutter. I placed it all onto the floor, just kind of like spread it all out, and then I was going through and just kind of adding it as I was going along. I do also place some of the, I think it's from Cats and Dogs, the feathers in the corner. I don't know, I just felt like it just kind of fitted into this kitchen. And there is also some food bowls over here by the bin. I imagine this household to actually have a cat. Now, I think for my safe fault, I am actually going to give them a cat, and so I just felt like it would be appropriate to add some cat bowls or some food bowls. Obviously, if you wanted to download this house and maybe you didn't want to play with the charm family, maybe you didn't want to play with cats, maybe you didn't want to play with laundry, because I'm actually currently adding in a little like laundry utility room, you can delete them and make them into something else. That's absolutely fine, but this is just what I imagined when I was actually building the house. As you can see, this laundry room is quite small. It's just off the kitchen. I didn't want to make it into a bathroom because the room next door was actually a bathroom, and this house was so big I had to try and think of all these different rooms that I wanted there to be. And one room that I normally do in all my houses anyway is kind of like a laundry room and a utility room, and so I just thought like this little area over here could be a perfect place for a little laundry or utility room or whatnot. But anyway, moving on, I've actually now gone back to the start of the house and actually started furnishing the hallway as you walk in through the front door. Now, one of the main things I wanted to make sure in this build was there was a grand hallway, there was a grand entrance. As you walk in through the front door, you're like, wow, this house is something. It's not your regular kind of house. And so I decided to do this kind of staircase where it kind of goes up on two different sides. Unfortunately, I couldn't add any railings because they are two separate staircases and the game reads it as two separate staircases, and so there was going to be a railing in between. So I decided not to actually add the railings. I would have loved to have been able to actually add the railings to the side of the staircase, but the game it reads it as there is actually two staircases instead of one, and so unfortunately there is actually no railings, but I still feel like you still get the idea that I was going for. I wanted it to be grand. I wanted there to be a lot of statues and some maybe family portraits. I actually added the portraits from Spooky Stuff, I believe, which I feel like is my least used pack. I really don't ever use that pack at all. But it was kind of like family portraits, and like I said, this family does have loads of generations, or supposedly have loads of generations, and so I wanted to add a lot of family portraits around the house to kind of as kind of like a thing to their ancestors, or their grandparents or something like that. But anyway, as you can see, moving on, I've now started furnishing the lounge area. Now, something I do actually want to mention in this house is there is no TV. I imagine that the mother is so against having a TV in the house and that she wants her children to focus on spells and potions and doesn't really agree with having a TV. If you want to have a TV, you can add one in. It would just be simple, but I personally didn't want to actually add a TV into this house, and so the main like lounge living room, it just doesn't have a TV, but it does actually have a grand piano, as you can see in the corner. It does have the Realm of Magic sofas. Now, something that I did in this build was actually use a lot of the Realm of Magic pack, and these sofas and the chairs that I use in the dining room, I've never actually used before because I've never actually, I don't know, I've just never actually just gone for them in the build and buy menu, but I wanted this house to basically be a Realm of Magic like showcase. Like this basically has pretty much all the items that you actually get with the Realm of Magic pack in this house is what I tried to make it seem like anyway. I don't know if I actually managed to put every single item in, but the majority of the items are actually in this house. And as you can see, something I'm actually doing over here is I'm actually just cluttering up this little coffee table. Now, two things I want to mention. One, there is a lot of bookcases in this house, and two, if you download this house with the gallery, I would highly recommend that you don't get your sim to clean up the books or put all the books away back into the bookcases, because I spent so long actually just cluttering up the books so they're all stacked on top of each other. They are actually spell books that your sims can actually read from and learn different spells and potions, but I wanted to use them as clutter objects because they're actually a really nice thing just to kind of clutter up a space. And so you will see later on in the build, and as we go on throughout the rest of the house, I actually use them quite a lot just to clutter up multiple different areas of the build where I feel like spell books will look quite nice cluttered up and just kind of piled up. They haven't been put into the bookcase. So yeah, I would highly recommend, if you do actually just decide to download this house, just don't put the books away because you'll basically lose a lot of clutter, because I use them as clutter objects and not actually objects that I imagine that you would actually use. But anyway, moving on, I've started furnishing the dining room of this house. I imagine it would be quite a grand dining room. Maybe before the family that live here now, maybe their ancestors was a really, really big family and they had this grand just dining hall, and loads of people would come over, and yeah, I just wanted it to be grand. That was kind of like the whole just summary of this house. I wanted it to be quite grand and quite formal and look like it has been passed down through the generations. Even though there's actually only 4 sims that live in this house, there's a lot of seats in the dining table, so they can have a lot of dinner parties if you want to do that. But now moving on, I've started furnishing the library. I do just want to mention, I did actually cut out the furnishing of the hallway downstairs, which goes into the lounge room and the dining room, just kind of like this little, it was quite, I say this little, it was actually quite a big hallway area, and I decided to cut it out. I didn't want to make this video too long, but it will be in the screenshots. But over here there is actually a library. Now the mother in this household is actually a bookworm, and I really wanted to play on that, and so I decided to have a library in the house, which I thought was quite a nice idea, as it is an older house and a lot of older houses do tend to have libraries, or fancier older houses do tend to have libraries. I really wanted to add one. It's quite a small one, but it's cute. But now moving on, I have started furnishing the Spellcaster room, the magic room. Now this room took me over an hour to do. Now you might be thinking, but this is such a small room, like this is just like an average size room, how could this possibly take you an hour? This was my 4th attempt of doing this room because I just couldn't get it right. Like it took me 4 attempts to try and make it look cluttered but not too cluttered and not a giant mess. And yeah, this was my 4th attempt of this room. I'm finally happy with it. I really like the way it turned out. Originally the right hand wall was actually going to be a whole wall full of shelves and all the potions and familiars and stuff like that. But then on this attempt, I decided that it would be nice not to have as many shelves, and because it just kind of looked like a giant cluttered mess. And so I went with the shelves on either side of the windows. Now there is so many potions and so many wands. I imagined the wands are maybe passed down through the generations, you know, their ancestors' wands, and they've been given to the Charm family as they are from the same bloodline, and they've sadly passed away, but they've got their wands. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like this room was it just had a lot of history, it had a lot of heritage, and so I tried to mimic that in all of the wands, in all of the wand cases. I think I got every single wand apart from the magician's wand, and I'm pretty sure I've got every single potion. There might be like one or two that I didn't get, but for the most part I tried to get every single one of them in there. And then we do also have this massive pot in the middle of the room. I can never remember the name of it, and I don't want to try and attempt to say it because I'm probably going to embarrass myself, so I don't know what it's called, but where your Sims can make potions and stuff. Now you might be wondering why I've placed 4 microwaves into this room. Don't worry, it's not a microwave room. It's not where your Sims can come and just use the microwave. There's actually no microwaves in the end. I was just using it as a placeholder so these books didn't clip to the counters. And again, like I said, there is more books as clutter objects. Now I felt like I needed a lot of books in this room because it is supposedly the spellcaster's room, and so I tried to use pretty much every single spell book that I could find. Now some of them look like they're exactly the same book because they actually have the same covers, but I'm pretty sure it's because of the different types of magic. So the mischievous magic will have the same cover as the other spells in that magic. I can't remember, but a lot of the books look the same, but they are actually different books, and I tried to make it so all the top covers were different to the other top covers, so it didn't look like I just had like 20 of the same books stacked on top of each other. But I did actually also add some garlic into this room as well, which actually is something that I wanted to talk about. So obviously we have vampires in the game, and there is actually a teenager in this house. Now I imagine this family just doesn't like vampires. They're the opposite kind of cult to them, and so they're not very friendly with vampires. And so they have some garlic in their house. There's also some in their kitchen as well. I believe I might have dotted some around the rest of the house, but I can't really remember. But I actually want to make it in my save file. So Gemma Charm, which is the teenager in this household, I really want to make her have a vampire boyfriend because I feel like she's quite rebellious, and I just feel like it would be quite a good storyline. So I think in my save file, yeah, she's going to have a vampire boyfriend. I haven't yet created a house for her so-called vampire boyfriend, but that is something that I actually really want to do. And as you would have just seen, I did actually just do the bathroom. Now, I didn't actually show the footage of any of the other bathrooms. There is 5 bathrooms in total in this house, I believe. There is 1 downstairs, and then the rest are all upstairs. 2 of them are en-suites, and then the other 2 are just in the hallway. The mother's room doesn't actually have an ensuite because it's in the corner of the house, and so it was quite awkward to try and figure out how to put a bathroom in there, but she does have her own like kind of bathroom that is kind of allocated to her anyway. Now this is the room that is actually outside the spellcaster's room, and I just put some bookcases in here. Like I said, there's a lot of bookcases in this house. Some bookcases, the rocking chair that we've got with Nifty knitting. There is also a little bar area, and then also the fireplace and some sofas. The rug I do actually end up changing. I think I might change it another 2 times, but I do actually change it to a different one. Just thought I'd mention it. I don't think I actually kept that bit in because I think I actually went back and did it later on. I am also going in and adding these kind of flower arrangements on top of the fireplace. I felt like they actually went really well with this build. They're actually the ones that we got from Seasons, and yeah, I just felt like they just went really, really well in this little room. But anyway, moving on, I've now started furnishing the upstairs of this house. I started furnishing at Gemma's bedroom, which is the teenager in this house, like I just mentioned, and she is the one that I imagined to have a vampire boyfriend. Now, I imagine her to be quite rebellious. I don't know why, I just have this feeling that she could be quite rebellious. Her traits don't read her to be quite a rebellious person whatsoever, but I just really like the storyline of her mother is this really proud spellcaster, and all of her generations of family have always been spellcasters, and her brother's obviously engaged to Amelia, and her mother wants the same for Gemma. She wants her to find a really nice young spellcaster, and Gemma's just not here for it. She don't want it. She wants to be with a vampire. I just really like that storyline. And yeah, so this is just kind of what I imagined for her. As you can see, her room is quite dark. I wanted it to be quite dark because I imagine her to be quite rebellious. And as you might notice, the bed is actually on a diagonal. Now, I've never actually done this, I don't believe, anywhere in a house, but I really liked the look of this bed being on a diagonal because I was actually thinking back to the Vampire Diaries, and I believe it's Damien who actually, his bed in his bedroom is on a diagonal. And even though Damon is a vampire and we're talking about spellcasters, I just really liked the look of it. I actually put this city living kind of curtain. It's like I think it might be, it's not technically a curtain, it's actually like a sculpture or a decoration, but I put it behind the bed because otherwise there was like this weird space where the bed should really be up against the wall, but it wasn't, as it was on a diagonal. But anyway, as you can see, I did also add a little bookcase into this room. Now, I was actually going to add a TV into here. Like I said, there's no TVs in the downstairs. She is quite rebellious, but I couldn't actually fit one in the way the floor plan of this room worked out, like the way I put all the objects and stuff, as the bed is at a weird angle. But now moving on, I've started furnishing the next bedroom, which is Daryl and Amelia's bedroom. Now Amelia is a new spellcaster, I believe, anyway, it says from the household description, and Daryl is obviously the child of Manira. I can't say her name, that's why I've been avoiding it this whole entire video. But he is the child of the family in this house, and she is just a new spellcaster who is just engaged to him and just moved in. Like I mentioned, their bedroom does actually have an ensuite, so they have their own personal little bathroom. And to be honest with you, I didn't actually know really what to put in this bedroom. I feel like they don't spend a lot of time in here. They're either downstairs, maybe in the spellcaster's room, learning potions, maybe training Amelia up, as she is not as advanced and she doesn't know as many spells and potions as the rest of the family do. So maybe they spend a lot of their time downstairs doing that, or maybe they spend a lot of their time in the magic realm, or yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to actually put in here. I didn't want to put a computer in here as there is a kind of like library office downstairs, and I didn't imagine that they would actually just come and sit in their bedroom and go on the computer, and so I did just end up going with a little seating area and a little bookcase as well. Now moving on, I've started furnishing the art room. Now I don't believe off memory that any of the household members actually have a creative trait at all, but there were so many rooms in this house and I really liked the idea of just having a little art room. Your Sims can come in here, do some painting, and yeah, I just really like this room. It's quite small, it's quite cute, but I feel like it works. All of the items that I use are basically base game. The item that I've got on the right hand side is somewhere for your Sims to actually hang paintings. They can't actually technically do it, but it looks like they've just hung their paintings in there to dry, and yeah. But now moving on to the spare bedroom. So I did actually make it so this house has a spare bedroom for maybe if you wanted to play with your personal family and not the charm family. There was somewhere for another household member to sleep, or maybe Daryl and Amelia had a child and this would eventually be their bedroom, or maybe you just want to have a butler. I just wanted there to be a spare bedroom, or maybe spellcasters from really far away travelled down to see the charm family and they wanted to stay the night. I don't know, it was just a spare bedroom. But anyway, moving on to the last room in this house. This is the mother's bedroom, and I was saving the Realm of Magic bed for this bedroom as she is the oldest member of the family, and I feel like she's very well respected in the spellcaster community, and I just wanted her to have the big grand Realm of Magic bed, and so I did just give it to her in this kind of light cream swatch. I am also going over in the corner and cluttering up her chest of drawers with a few familiars, a potion and a spell book, and then I also do add some wands into her room as well. In a moment you will see me try and add the get together wardrobe, but as this room was on a diagonal I couldn't actually build it into the wall, and so I ended up just deleting that and adding some bookcases instead. But I'm just going to go around now and clutter up this little shelving unit with a few metals and some crystals, and yeah. But anyway guys, I'm actually reaching the end of this voiceover, so like always you can download this house via the gallery. My origin ID is JessicapieYT, or you could just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me build this charm family estate home, and as always, if you do like my content then please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.